We continue looking at the formation of the Government of National Unity, focusing on President Cyril Ramaphosa being re-elected after an extended session of Parliament that spanned over 12 hours. In the presidential context, Ramaphosa received 283 votes, significantly outpacing EFF leader Julius Malema, who garnered 44. Let's unpack all this with political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Professor Breakfast, good to speak to you this evening. Let's start off with the immediate... Let's start off with the immediate steps that President Ramaphosa should take to strengthen this coalition.
I'm glad that you refer to it as a coalition, because some people want to create an impression that it doesn't have features of a coalition arrangement. Maybe the concept of Government of National Unity is under-theorized, but it is a power-sharing arrangement. It is a coalition arrangement. I mean, the concept of coalition formation was foregrounded by Arend Limfant from Holland, and he talks about different versions of coalition arrangements. So people mustn't speak as if there's one arrangement of power sharing. There are different arrangements, and this is one of them. So I think that must be noted, at a theoretical level. So I think so far so good, and I'm not saying that I am in agreement with this partnership between the ANC and the DA and so on. All I'm saying is that everything has gone according to plan, because I think by Thursday it's the IFP that sort of like let the cat out of the bag by breaking the news that the ANC had struck a deal with the DA. So I was not taken aback when the DA and the IFP and the PA voted for the candidacy of Ramaphosa. What I like about this arrangement is that there is a framework now, which is something new that binds political parties. I'm not saying that I am in agreement with it. Yes, there was an omission of the public that voted for different political parties. But what I like is that this framework will also create a platform for these coalition partners to address issues where they disagree, which is a good thing, because in the past, I think coalition arrangements at local government level have been unworkable and unstable, largely because the political elite have a tendency to rush into joining forces without developing a mechanism to address differences. So I think so far so good, Hugo.
You raise an interesting issue there, Professor Breakfast, and that's the issue around the mechanisms or the mechanics on which local government is managed around coalitions. Can we expect, now that we have this coalition that has the DA, maybe the IFP, and potentially some other political parties, can we expect that if it's successful, that this success will permeate down to local government?
I don't want to make that link because we need to realize that each sphere has its own specificity. Local government is a different kettle of fish. I think political parties, by and large, they take national government seriously. That's why they've really put aside their differences and came up with this framework to guide them. So I don't want to be simplistic now and move from specific to general and say that because of this arrangement, it means that these ideas will permeate to local government and so on, because the politics of local government are different, even though it is an important sphere because it is closer to the people on the ground. But I think what the political elite can do is to build upon what they have done in terms of making sure that there are also frameworks before they strike deals at local government level.
In your view, are there any members of the ANC or the DA that feel betrayed by this coalition or Government of National Unity, however we choose to call it?
Yes, I think so. Why do I say that? Because there were some 12 ballot papers that were spoiled yesterday when members of parliament voted for the president. So that tells me that not everyone vote. I mean, I think Julius Malema got about 44 votes. So presumably that will be the EFF and maybe other like-minded organizations like ATM and so on. So I don't think that everyone is content within the ANC with the way things are. But you must remember also the ANC, you know, uses a socialist organizational model, which is democratic centralism. So some people will not want to break ranks, but I can bet my bottom dollar there are people who are unhappy with the arrangement. But also there are people outside the ANC who might be unhappy with this arrangement, you know, because they feel like the ANC has betrayed them. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I don't want to say the beauty of it, but the positive side of it is that the market forces, I think, will be in favor of this arrangement. And I suspect that there was an invisible hand of the market forces in terms of facilitating this arrangement with the DA. But then maybe the question is, what is the point of having an economy which is stable, but there's no trickling down effect? You know, the benefits of this stable economy, they are not felt by the poorest of the poor on the ground.
Okay, that's a lovely point, which paves way for my next question, and that's how can the DA or the ANC feel they've won in this coalition government? What do they need to see at the end of the 5-year period or during the next 5 years that says to them, you know what, when we got into that GNU or coalition, we made the right decision?
Well, I think if, for instance, issues of inequality, poverty, unemployment, those are the most serious security threats which are posing a danger to the country. So if they can address the triplets, those three security threats, I think I will applaud them. And then also there are issues of gender-based violence. You know, there are other issues that need to be addressed, like the slow pace of economic growth, the slow pace of service delivery, and the issue of budget deficit. That is going to be very interesting, you know, in the next couple of days, because the question is, how is the composition of the cabinet going to be? Is it going to be a bloated cabinet and with the DA that believes in fiscal discipline or government expenditure that is reduced in order to address, you know, the shortfall of government? Because the ANC, due to a number of reasons in the past, I think they've used the state machinery as a terrain of accumulation, sometimes to dish out favors to their henchmen in exchange for support in order for certain people to hold on to power. So now the ANC is not going to do as it pleases. So those dynamics will be very interesting, in particular, the size of the cabinet.
Well, one thing that's going to happen once President Cyril Ramaphosa has been inaugurated is that he's going to appoint his deputy, right? Now, if that deputy is Paul Mashatile, is there going to be a problem with the DA? Because DA leader John Steenhuisen, just before the election, spoke about how he's gone to the police, made a report, and basically taking Paul Mashatile to court for various allegations.
These coalition partners are different independent political parties. But I think on matters of governance, there is a need for compromises to be made, especially with regard to budget. I'm not sure how they're going to deal with this issue of the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, given the fact that the DA, I think they have instituted, I don't know, charges against him, or they are unhappy with the media coverage that he has been receiving, which is painting a bad picture about him. So I think that issue, it is more of a political issue than an issue of governance, in my opinion.
And when we look at DA, just how much political influence will they have on some of the decisions that President Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to make, or the decisions that are going to be made by this coalition?
Well, I mean, I think there will be a need for a buy-in from the DA if the ANC, for instance, wants to pass some bills. They need votes for the government to carry out its business of the day. But the DA also has been very strategic. I don't suspect that the DA will have a strong footprint in the cabinet. I think they will have a strong footprint in the committees of the National Assembly. Why? To make sure that the principle of separation of powers or checks and balances is upheld. So I suspect that they are going to be appointed as chairs of committees, and those committees are extremely important because in terms of separation of powers, you know that the legislative institution is the lawmaking body, but also it holds the executive accountable. So I think that will be their role, but also maybe they might have, I don't know, one or two people in the executive. But I think the executive, which is the cabinet, will be dominated by the henchmen of the ANC. Maybe you might have other smaller political parties like the IFP or PA also getting cabinet positions. But by and large, I think it will be dominated by the ANC.
Professor Breakfast, for these political parties, excuse me, they're thinking about the long game, largely. And I'd imagine that for the DA, part of that long game might be consolidation, right? How do we go from 20% to a few more percentage points to 25% for argument's sake, or a little bit more? And I'd imagine that part of that would stem from how much visibility they have to you, I, or any other voters in South Africa. Now, if they're on the committees, just how much visibility do they have versus being members of cabinet, where they are, call them the foot soldiers, for want of a better description, where they're seeing to perform, where the likelihood of that success is going to trigger more support or votes in the next few years?
Politics, Hugo, is a game of power. And politics is about advancing your own interests. So I think both political parties in the main, I know you also have the IFP, but they want to have a win-win situation. So I think the DA, their end game is to make sure that if, for instance, government is at fault, they expose government, then take glory out of that. You know, that, you know, I don't know, the executive that is led by the ANC maybe is corrupt, and so on. So there is a plan, I think, that is at play. But also on the other hand, the ANC also wants to dominate, in my view, the cabinet, and might want to take glory if, you know, the government is able to get the job done. So I think at the end of the day, you know, they've got agendas that are hidden, but we will see them as time goes by.
What are we going to see from the MK party as opposition? What impact will they have on this coalition government?
Yeah. The ideological proximity of Umkhonto weSizwe is closer to the EFF. I think there is ideological alignment there. So I suspect that they will join forces. I mean, Msholo's, even while he was within the ANC, I know he's still a member of the ANC, but before the breakaway of Umkhonto weSizwe party, he used to hold meetings with the CIC in Nkandla and strategize on how to pose a threat to President Ramaphosa. So I think that arrangement is going to be consolidated in order to pose a serious threat to this government. I think the two political parties will work side by side in terms of undermining the administration of Ramaphosa, but also in terms of exposing, you know, the weaknesses of the current government. And we might see a lot of motions of no confidence, you know, trying to collapse the government so that maybe they can re-engineer another government of theirs.
That was political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Appreciate your time and packing for us the road ahead for the re-elected Cyril Ramaphosa.